Bonjour.
Hello. I was going to say hello, no.
Hello, no. Welcome back
Yes.
to an episode / another episode of Powerful Nonsense. This is episode 138.
Yes.
And today we're going to be talking about expectations.
And why sometimes they suck.
They really suck. And again, it's like last week. This is one I think I can talk quite a lot about.
Wayne's just fully loaded
I'm
with
just
experience at the moment. He's going through so many breakthroughs, just...
Midlife crisis is what it is.
Midlife crisis.
Not a quarter life crisis. 30's looming, 30's looming.
It's coming, and actually was...
But I'll never be as old as you,
planning a friend's 30th next year. Dangerous times.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it's got to.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Not me yet, though.
You got another year, right?
Yes.
And then I've got another year after you. It's great.
We're right.
Yeah, we're good.
And who are you?
I am Wayne Ingram.
And I'm Jim Yodis.
Nicely done, Jim. That was good.
Cheers,
So, we want to talk about specifically the tyranny
The tyranny
of expectation.
Yes.
And why expectation can often do you bad.
Yes.
So, I've had a bit of experience with this
I think
recently.
everybody probably is.
And one of the things I've learned, and it's been part of the comeback that we talked about in the previous episode, is just not putting weight on where I want things to go and where I expect things to go, and what I want out of certain scenarios and things like that. And just kind of, again, kind of goes back to what we talked about in the previous episode, which if you haven't checked out, check that out, which is this idea of controlling your thoughts and controlling your actions, and nothing else matters. Just let it go. And I think it's just, I've been really focusing recently on just kind of going, do you know what? I know that I'm doing everything I can, and that's all that matters. And if a result doesn't come that I'm hoping for, then that's fine. Another opportunity will come along.
It's very Eckhart Tolle. You're being in the now.
Yeah.
You're embracing the moment, living
in the moment, being present in the current situation, and not being like, I want this out of this. Or just kind of going, you know what, this is good. I'm happy with this.
Yeah, I think naturally people are just like loading themselves up expectations of what they expect from themselves, what they assume people expect from them. And I think a lot of the time that's so like defeating. It's so the minute you kind of have an expectation of something, it's the same thing. It's like if you go on a date with someone you find really attractive, you're going to turn up and you're expecting, or you want to kind of get in a relationship with that person, and you kind of want it to go so well, and so suddenly you put that pressure on yourself for it to work out and to turn up and it go perfectly planned, and you're playing it out in your head, and you arrive and it just doesn't. It totally falls flat, and then you feel hurt. Whereas in the better way of looking, like you were saying there, is just if you're in the moment, you just say, look, if I turn up at the best I can and be me and just be myself, that way you're not kind of loading it with this sort of, I don't know, perfect outcome.
Right.
And it doesn't put pressure on you then. Or I think a lot of people do that in all aspects of their lives, where they're expected to be at a certain point, expected to be a certain person, pressure from parents or whatever else, or assumed pressure from parents and stuff like that. And I just think, it's a horrible place to be in, because it is defeating. It is kind of like you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, ultimately.
And I think you end up, when you kind of start thinking down that line of, or this is what's expected, or this is where I want things to be, or where other people want things to be, you then start acting out of a place of I don't want to use this word again, but inauthentic. You kind of start acting from an inauthentic place, and you're not an organic place, I think, is probably a better way of putting it. Is you're kind of trying to manufacture these scenarios and manufacture these results, even when you haven't necessarily earned it, or the situation warrants it. You're just kind of going, well, no, this is the expectation, and what happens is you end up getting so much in your own head. That you're not actually behaving right, but because you're so much in your own head and you're like, well, this is the expectation, you're taking actions which aren't organic, but in your mind it's logical because this is the expectation, and to everyone else it just comes across as like, well, that was a really weird thing to do. Like, Do you know what I mean?
Well, I know Philip McKern talks a lot about this idea that the logic is above the shoulders, and most of us live above the shoulders, whereas I think aspects of sort of letting go is sort of like they say, trusting your heart, going back to what feels right rather than actually what logically on the surface may look like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, and you just end up with this constant stress of pressure, and I just don't think it's a very, very helpful place to be in. And you kind of, I think what then happens, it becomes a downward spiral, is because then you behave in this unorganic way, and then things don't, because it doesn't feel right in whatever angle, it doesn't feel right on some level, and then because it doesn't feel right, whatever you've done usually doesn't land right. And so then you that start going, well, that didn't land right. And then you go, well, I did something wrong. And then you then put pressure on yourself. And sometimes you end up going, oh, well, I gone fucked up there. And then you're like, but I have these expectations, so I kind of want to fix it. So then you start acting even more from an unorganic place to try and fix the damage that you've created. And then it just becomes this cycle. And then you just get into this place where everything's going wrong because you're trying to force things rather than.
And I think a lot of that sort of expectations comes from like personalities who are kind of like want perfection. I think we all want everything to unfold exactly as planned. It's just unfortunately life gets in the way and that doesn't really go as smoothly.
Right.
And I do think Tony Robbins has these he talks about these two sort of motivations. I think one was like significance and the other one's control. And I think expectations plays up on our actual need for control.
Right.
And so expectations is kind of like your brain's like, okay, logically tell me if I move from here to to there, this is going to happen. And obviously that's just not life. It doesn't pan out that way. You can't kind of, it goes back to that sort of like, there's randomness, so much randomness that you cannot really, A doesn't always lead to B, unfortunately, when it comes to life.
Well, that's it. And I think to get really existential here,
which I feel we're already getting, it feels very deep, very quick.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like I feel like the problem with expectations is, and living through expectations is, it is kind of existential, just by its very nature, because you're already thinking outside of yourself before you've even begun. But I think the thing. The way you have to look at it is that ultimately, unless you are religious, in which case I apologise if I offend you, but ultimately, everything in this world that we live in has happened by accident. It's kind of happened by chance. It's not happened because, unless you're religious, it hasn't happened because somebody's gone, I want it to be like that. It's just happened, and it's been organic, and it's the right things have happened at the right time, in the right place, with the right amount of energy, and it's happened.
Perfect chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And so, in a way, and this is, again, something I've had to learn the hard way, is, excuse me, you almost have to just embrace that chaos and embrace the fact that it's not going to go as you planned it to go, and actually just love the chaos. Just enjoy it. I'm really starting to love when a curveball's thrown my way at the moment, because I suddenly go, oh, isn't this exciting?
Something new, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to kind of going, oh, that's ruined my plans. Because it's not about my plans. It's about my plans for me, obviously, but nobody else cares. Like, really, nobody else cares. They've got their own plans. You might be throwing a curveball to them with your expectations and throwing your weight into where you want it to go.
Just a question came to my mind, I guess, is how much of our expectations come from our like personal stories, and I think a lot of the time, like people's expectations are often based on the history more than it is the potential where they want to go. And another thing I heard from Wayne Dyer recently, he was saying like when you think about a boat on the sea, you look at like the ripples going away from it. What do they call the wake from the boat,
right? Oh yeah. I know what you mean.
He says when you think about it, what actually makes the boat go forward, it is the engine that's in the boat in that moment. But often the times we're looking at the wake as if it's the thing that propels. It's going to propel the boat forward, but actually that's just moving away. But a lot of the time, we set our expectations based on the wake, which is never going to push the boat forward.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think I get what. So we focus on everything else but the thing that's important. Basically, we're looking at. So let's say it is
looking at the horizon is not going to make you go forward. Looking at the wake's not going to make you go forward.
Right, it's kind of like looking at the job interview in a way. Let's use that as an analogy, because I think I'm just trying to work out if I have got this right. So rather than looking at you, the boat, and how you can move forward, right, by prepping for your job interview, doing your research and all that, as an example, right? Instead, you're looking at the bigger picture, almost too much. You're kind of going, well, look, you're looking at the company, you're looking at the people that are interviewing you, you're looking at the
that where maybe you kind of too focused on how perfect that job's going to be when you're in there, and it's the only job. It's again looking at the horizon. You're saying, if I don't get this job, that's it. Life's over. I'm never going to reach that destination. I'm never going to. And then the other side of it, which I think most people get stuck in, is looking at the wake of the boat, which is, you know what, I never get jobs when they go for this much money. I'm never going to get that. Last time I was in an interview, it was really embarrassing. I messed up. I never get the jobs I want. And so it's kind of that, again, it goes probably like you said at the beginning with the whole Eckhart Tolle in that moment. It is that the now focus, which I think is really important. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of our expectations are based on the wake. But then at the same time, people always say, well, you need to have, because the foresight and the stuff in front is what motivates you, but then where actually that's good to see the foresight, but understand that actually it's only the moment now that has the energy
that really matters.
Yeah, that really matters.
Yeah, I think
so it's not rejecting that I'm not going to be like a big vision. I'm not going to be like I don't know, bold with where I think I can go, but it's understand that actually, yeah, that's a great place to be, but the moment now is the only point where you can actually create something.
Right, yeah. And again, because I watched it last night, although I mentioned this, I think one of the other episodes we recorded today, I was watching Darren Brown Miracle, and he actually talks about a lot of this stuff, and one of his big focuses is on this story that we tell ourselves. And I think, and something I heard a long time ago, but it's really stuck with me, I heard it from Brian Rose on London Real, but he was quoting someone else, and I can't remember who it was, which was that, and again, I'm going to go bigger picture again here a little bit, but he says depression is trying to control your past, and anxiety is trying to control your future. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves. Like, depression and anxiety are at an all-time high at the moment. Maybe we're more aware of it. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But we're putting so much pressure on ourselves at every stage of life now. Every single stage of life. Even kids in year 2 are taking SATs exams to find out how well they're doing at school.
Yeah.
And then it's the next SAT and the next ones and the next ones. It's always like there's always something more that you have to do to fulfill everyone's expectations. And then we finish school and it's like, right, now on to uni, we've got to get that degree, and then we got to go out and we got to get that job. And then it's like, right, well, by the time I'm this age, I did it as a kid. I thought by the age of 26, because my parents were quite young I thought by the age of 26, I'm going to have my own house, I'm going to be married, I'm going to have kids. And look, I'm 27 and I ain't got shit. But I think we put that much pressure on making sure that we tick those boxes all the time, that we're constantly kind of looking for the next kind of, what's my next chess move, rather than just kind of throwing the paint at the wall and seeing if it looks nice.
And I think that's it. I think that the looking ahead and looking behind is so tiring.
Yeah.
It's so tiring. It literally takes away the power of the day, which is the moment you can make it. It's like with a depressed person, like you say, if they're looking backwards, it means they don't want to take any action today. If you're looking forward, it seems too big and too challenging that you can't start today. That goes back to that. What you achieve in a year, you underestimate what you can achieve in a year.
Yeah, you texted me this only about 2 weeks ago, so you should know this one.
So it's
I think everybody underestimates what they can.
You
overestimate what you can do in a year,
and you underestimate what you can do in like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to that. I think it's only those little steps. It's really ultimately the main point of this first 15 minutes is just the power is in the now. Ultimately,
yeah, definitely.
Eckhart Tolle, good book. Read it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point to have a break. So.
Yes.
Whilst this break is happening, go buy Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
What's the title?
The Power of Now. Got
Go
loads
do
of
that.
videos on YouTube as well, so check those out.
Yeah. and listen to the ads, obviously. Right, back in a mo. So we thought we'd just take a few seconds just to say thank you to our sponsor,
Yep.
the University of Northampton. Huge thank you to them for supporting the show. So why should you check them out? Well, first of all, we're alumni. We
Yes.
went there, so everything that we kind of deliver to you, it kind of comes from them in a way. But also, they're not just about getting a degree. The thing we love about Northampton Uni, from experience, is the fact that you come out of your course with your degree, but also there's so many options on the table. They understand that it's not just about going out and getting a job anymore. It's also about the possibility of setting up your own business and becoming an entrepreneur. And to top that off, it's not just about setting up a business, it's about setting up a social enterprise. That's their specialist area. So if you're thinking of setting up a business, it can also be one that's doing good to the world and delivering social impact. So check them out, northampton.ac.uk, and huge thank you to them for supporting the show. Welcome back.
Hello.
So we're talking about expectations.
Everybody's purchased their book. They're now
Everyone's
in
gone
the now,
purchased
they're in
their
the
book.
present, just
Yeah.
listening to this.
Yeah. Good. And breathe.
Mm-hmm.
In and out.
Coming soon, Wayne's pre-bedtime relaxation tape. How nonsense.
Go the fuck to sleep. But yeah, so we're talking about expectations, and a question that's kind of cropped up in the break is, whose expectations are you playing to?
Mm-hmm.
Are they your own expectations? I think we've talked about this in a lot of episodes in many ways, but let's look at it through the angle of expectation specifically. Like, who are you trying to, whose expectations are you acting against? Is it your expectations and what you want? Or is it the expectations of everyone around you and society and all that sort of stuff that's putting this extra pressure on you that, frankly, you could do without?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need that.
It's funny when you, I just watched Tony Robbins' documentary, the new one, I'm Not Your Guru, which is a great watch.
Oh, I really need to watch that. I haven't got. It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Really, really good documentary. And I think if you look at when he's doing some of the breakthroughs with people, like just chatting to them, I think a lot of it comes back to, he always says, like, this girl's like, in one of them, just like, I really just can't keep up with my diet. And she starts with like, I'm just not eating the right things. I just got no motivation to keep doing it. And then he just goes straight in. He's like, who are you trying to impress? Like, and then she's like, I just want to keep like fit for like and stuff like that. And he gets to the core of it. And he said, look, all of us have someone we're trying to please, like whether it's, and it usually is like someone in your family, your parents, maybe it's an older brother, maybe it's like someone you're feeling pressurized by. And I think a lot of it does come from within the home. I do think that first 16 or however many years you're at home is literally tailoring what you believe you expect from yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I was like that. I'm sure. Like, I think everybody can think
A lot of the deep diving I've done recently, I'm like, that's come from my parents, or that's come from the people I spent a lot of time with, my uncles, and this, that, and the other. Yeah.
And I think that's where your brain's most vulnerable, and it sets what it thinks you should be doing to be a good person, or what you think makes you a man, or makes you a woman, or makes you a successful person. And I think ultimately when you do that deep dive, which is hard, and I think a lot of time you probably need someone to kind of guide you through it, but you can think about it yourself. Like, I do think you can kind of, I think we said about the emotional onion, or the mental onion, or something, that kind of idea of keep peeling down the layers of questioning. So like, okay, if you've got an expectation that you have to be the best at everything you do, then go back a layer and say why. But that's because since I was at school, I was always the best. But why? Because my parents told me that I was always special, and I was the hardest working, and I was really clever, and I was the cleverest in the family. Okay, why did they say that? Well, actually, because they wanted to motivate you, and they love you, and they hope that you can try hard. And you go down and keep going down the layers and layers.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, why did they want to motivate you? It's like, well, then maybe they had a shit childhood, and then it just then becomes an even bigger thing, doesn't it?
And I think a lot of the time, like that, sometimes it is that pressure from the family that came from a very loving place. It's just been put through your filtration system in your mind to make it sound like something that's really actually destructive and pressuring, and actually they maybe don't care that much about you being that good. They just want you to like do as good as you can and be happy ultimately. But it's kind of, again, you put that story on top of it, and I think throughout that documentary with Tony Robbins, you can really see how that plays in people, and everybody's guilty of that. I was guilty of that. Like, there's so many moments where you're setting expectation on yourself based on these past stories or your upbringing or all kinds of things really. It might even change a little bit later in life where you just talk to someone and say, well, in the same way, it could have been easy for you to say, like, I want to be an actor, but then someone with a really powerful way of thinking kind of says to you, you know what, you're wasting your time, mate. Like, it's not going to happen. I've been doing it 50 years. I haven't got my break. What do you think? Why do you think you are? You ain't going to do it. I already had these things at this point. And if someone could, like, take it out of you and set a new expectations for you. So, yeah, it's something to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just look at where these preset expectations of, because I think the biggest one, particularly for people our age, the biggest ones at the moment are like, why aren't I married yet? Why aren't I having children yet? Where's my career? What's up? What am I doing with my life? A good friend of mine, you know, her sister's doing very, very well in terms of ticking the boxes. She's bought a second house, and she's a younger sister, so she's like mid-20s. She's bought a second house. She's having her wedding later this year. She's already planning children. She's got a career. And my friend's there going, what am I doing with my life? Like, I still don't have my career sorted, let alone have any boyfriend or anything like that.
I'm just about managing to wash myself.
And and I think and she certainly feels the pressure because her family are going, well, your sister's got her shit together. What are you doing with your life? And of course, they're doing it in a kind of way to motivate, but it comes across then as like, oh, I'm not fulfilling expectations, and I'm not. And then she has a breakdown because she's like, my life's going nowhere. And I'm like, look, just calm down, work out what you want, and if what you are doing right now is what you want, then that's fine. If it's not, then something needs to change. But you have to work out what needs to change. Nobody else can tell that for you. And I think that's also the other thing as well. Like, some people are on a path, and some people will be on a path that takes longer. But we're in this world where it's just like, no, quick success, go, 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 go. If you're not earning 6-figure salary by the time you're 40, you're a failure.
Yeah, and I think there's a really great speech, I think it's at a university, where J.K. Rowling speaks about this, and she says, I was a failure till Harry Potter. And that was what age? Like, she was quite late. I think it was, in her 40s or something? I don't know.
Probably something like that.
Yeah, in her 40s. And she was like, up to that point, I was a failure, ultimately. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, you don't know. Your moment might not be today, but it could be 30 years down the line. And it's not that moment defines you as being a success, but up to that point, everybody had expectations of her as she is a failure, she's not doing the right things, why is she wasting her time writing these books, stuff like that. And so it's, again, you don't put that much pressure on yourself. It is enjoying the things you do in that moment, and it's just not wise to put too much expectation on yourself, because ultimately all you're doing is hiring a bully that's in your head who's just going to constantly beat you down and tell you why you're not enough.
Well, that's it. The self-talk that we give ourselves, and it's usually, that self-talk is usually based around seeing what everybody else is doing. And as we have said many, many times, like, don't judge it off of that, because they've got their shit they're dealing with. They're just not showing it. And I think that's what we've got to realize as well, is like, all these people that are filling expectations, presumably, they're not fulfilling all of the expectations that they have on themselves, that other people have on them. And this is the thing as well. Okay, yeah, we've all got general expectations that society has of us, but also there are other expectations. Think about the person whose family were like, no, you're going to become a lawyer because you're going to make a lot of money, and they're like, I have absolutely no interest in law. Actually, I'd rather be a musician. And that's probably a constant battle, because they could probably feel like they're a disappointment to their family, like, just because they decided that they didn't want to do what was expected of them. And so we're all kind of battling with these non-fulfilled expectations. I have them myself that I deal with. I had expectations I set myself. As I said, I thought by the time I was 26 I was going to have my life together, and my God, I don't. And that's fine. And actually, now I've got to the point where I've kind of gone, yeah, I haven't got my life together. And do you know what? I'm fine with that right now. And so, yeah, I mean, the hardest thing to do is put expectations on yourself based around other people, because you're just not going to be happy that way.
And I think as well, like, if you have those expectations put on you, and then you are forced to go and do something to become successful, like you decide to become the lawyer instead. I think Tony Robbins has this great phrase, and he says, the worst thing you can do is be successful but unfulfilled. And it's kind of that sort of thought on the lines that, yeah, you can be externally successful because you've gone and met those expectations of others, but that does not guarantee you're going to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people need to think about as well, is that actually fulfillment usually comes from doing the things that you know you want to do rather than just trying to meet other people's expectations.
So the question, I guess, is then, if you had a choice of being successful or fulfilled.
He's doing air quotes for the podcasters.
Yeah. Successful or fulfilled, but you couldn't have both. Would you always go for fulfilled over successful? So I suppose the real question is perceived fulfillment or genuine fulfillment.
Yeah, and I think it's.
Is it more about how other people see how good of a life you have versus how good of a life you actually have?
And when Tony Robbins uses this phrase like success versus fulfillment, he said, look at what's his name, the one who committed suicide, the actor Robin Williams. He said the guy externally was successful and said he wanted to make every person happy, and he made the world happy, but he couldn't make himself happy.
Well,
which I don't want to kind of open up a can of worms.
Yeah,
because
I mean
like
that's not true.
he uses that
Yeah.
context. So I don't know what's not so true about that. Because obviously he was highly successful.
Yeah, but
he was
but
not
it wasn't.
fulfilled.
It was no that wasn't why he killed himself.
Okay, I don't
It was
know
due
before.
to illness, not mental illness. Obviously, it was mental illness, but it was also there were other things going on.
Well, he's actually physically ill. He had like a disease.
So I heard recently, because at first
this is all breaking news. Like I only know the surface level of what everybody else
well,
has been.
shortly after he committed suicide. This is completely off topic, but
It's okay.
Hey,
I'm
trivia.
quite interested.
He committed suicide, and about a few weeks after it came out that he'd recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's, which also is an onset of, will also exacerbate depression, which he has a history of. And I thought that was why he killed himself. But I heard apparently yesterday, funnily enough, I heard that there was another element to the story, which was actually that he had been recently diagnosed with a type of dementia, and this is horrendous. And I was like, yeah, I kind of see why he did what he did. It's a particular type of dementia where you're hyper aware of what's happening to you. You're hyper aware of the fact that you're not remembering and that your mind is deteriorating. So it's not like a dementia where you're not really aware. You know how like with dementia sometimes they don't know what's going on and they're kind of oblivious to it. With this, it was more like, oh, actually no, like you're hyper aware.
I thought that was sort of like the phase with dementia anyway, where you kind of realise you're forgetting stuff, which is why usually people take themselves to the doctors and say, okay, just keep forgetting things. But yeah, I didn't know that.
But yeah,
obviously.
So it's not so much about making himself happy. There was other stuff going on.
Okay. But Tony Robbins did say, like, this was like probably like 2-3 years ago.
But the point still stands.
Yeah. The point still stands.
The point still stands.
But whether that's a whole debate on whether there's ever a right time to take your life, which I think
I don't think that's for this podcast.
Yeah, that is just not for this podcast. But yeah, that's
There you go. Educated you somewhat today.
There you go.
For the first time.
So we went a little bit off topic, but
I think the important thing to remember is just don't put expectations on what's currently happening to you, like all the good stuff. Don't sabotage it because you're trying to make it go somewhere that it might not necessarily go. Enjoy the chaos, and secondly, make sure that the expectations, if you are putting any on yourself, are coming from the right place, not the wrong place.
Love it. Cool.
So we'll wrap up there. So again, if you like the episode, give us a thumbs up on YouTube and leave us a nice shiny review on iTunes. And if you haven't hit subscribe, then please do on iTunes or YouTube. And hit us up on Twitter at @PN_podcast. Oh, and actually there were quite a few little resources that we put out in this episode, weren't there? So I should probably point you to the show notes, which is powerfulnonsense.com/138. So thanks very much for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.